Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. EQA Nostalgia here, and today I want to talk to you guys about maps. I want to talk to you a bit about Socom maps and H-hour maps, so we're going to go a little bit into the past and also speculating the future. Of course, it's not all speculation because we did see a little bit of that map that was in the pre-alpha footage. Alright, so first and foremost, I just want to give a big shout out to Russ Phillips. Now, I'm sure many of you know who Russ Phillips is, but for those of you who might not, Russ Phillips was a former art director for Socom, and he's responsible for some of the best maps in the series, including Sandstorm, Fishhook, Night Stalker, and Desert Glory, just to name a few. Russ is currently working with SOF Studios, and I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you, Mr. Phillips, for your contribution to Socom over the years. And I'm positive I'm not alone when I say I look very much forward to seeing what you produce for H-Hour. Okay, so first up, let's talk about some of the older Socom maps. Now, obviously, I can't name off all of the Socom maps that came out on the PlayStation 2. I mean, there's a lot of maps. You guys know there's a lot of maps, and it would take a long time to list every single one of them in detail. So what I'm going to try to do is name off some of the most popular ones, and I'm going to be completely selfish and name off my favorites. Now, for me personally, it's hard to just point at one map and say, that's my favorite map. I can't do that. So the first map I want to talk about is Frostfire, since that it was a very popular map and is a very nostalgic map for me. I have very good feelings about that map. I used to play on that map all the time with my cousin, and you know, if you know about me, you know all about that story. So now the first thing to talk about with Frostfire is that it was a small map. It was a fast and furious map. You didn't have to sit around waiting for too long. Like some of the other maps, they're a little bit bigger. Even back in SOCOM 1 and 2 days, there were maps that were bigger than others. And I think Frostfire was probably the smallest map out of all the SOCOM maps that ever came out. You can correct me if I'm mistaken, but it is my feeling that that was pretty much the smallest map. And one of the other things about that map is if you didn't hustle, if you didn't move your ass when you first started, you got blown up by a grenade. That's if you were in a boom room and then have grenades turned off. Obviously, so the terrorists would try to rush down into the tunnels or into the computer room, and the SEALs would typically make for the tunnels, or they would go for the box room, or that was it, you'd get blown up. And I think the terrorists probably had a little bit of an advantage, being that they started up on that platform, so it was probably a little bit easier for them to throw grenades down onto the SEALs. Now, my cousin had this technique where he could throw a grenade from the platform on the terrorist side, and he had this specific place where he would throw it every single time, and he almost always got like 2 or 3 SEALs. It was uncanny. I could never reproduce it. I tried and tried to get people the way he did, but I just couldn't do it. And all the maps in SOCOM kind of had an ingenious way that they were designed, in the way that you could almost always flank somebody. So if you were standing next to a wall or something like that, somebody could come up behind you, so you never really felt completely safe. You couldn't really put your back towards anything and be safe unless you were in that one room that was up on the platform. And even then, you know, where the terrorists started, there was that one room off to the side where people would hang out. But even if you hung out in there, you weren't necessarily safe because they could throw grenades up into there, and that was it. You were never going to get out of there alive. And one of the most distinctive features of that map was the 2 silos that were connected to each other where people could run around that little catwalk. Another feature that stuck out on that map that I remember fondly was the yellow crane. And I remember the first time I got into that map with my cousin, and I actually picked the terrorist with the yellow raincoat, and he was just laughing at me. He's like, "What the hell are you doing, man? You're gonna get wrecked with that yellow raincoat on." And he didn't expect me to run over there and lay down on the crane. And when I did that, I was like in the stealth mode. Everybody would always run past me, and they just didn't know I was there until, you know, they got smart after they got killed a few times. But you know, that's one of the things about shooters that I love, especially with SOCOM, is you get to know the maps. When you first start, you're a noob, right? You don't know what the hell you're doing. You're getting your ass whooped. But then you learn. You know, you watch other people while you're dead, and you learn some tricks. You know, you watch people like, oh, shit, that's a great spot to hang out, or a great spot to wait for people, or, you know, maybe I'll just set up over here. And that was one of the things that I loved about SOCOM and shooters in general. And then, of course, you had the tunnels. And the tunnels are legendary. I mean, in SOCOM 1, they were different. I believe they were different. Correct me if I'm mistaken, it's been a while, but I think there was like a divider where you couldn't go all the way through the tunnels, and then in SOCOM 2 they opened it up more. But then in SOCOM 2 they added the auto shotties, and that was a pain in the ass because if you went down there and you were a SEAL, you were at a serious disadvantage because that was actually one of the only guns that terrorists had an advantage over SEALs on. Typically the SEALs had the advantage with the weapons and the terrorists had the map advantage. But if you went down in there, man, and you were a SEAL, you're probably going to get shot up by that damn auto shotgun. And just to go off on like a little side note here, that's one of the other things that I loved about SOCOM is that the SEALs had better weapons typically, and the terrorists had better maps. They had advantages on their maps. And I love that. I mean, sure, we had maps that were pretty well balanced, but there were a lot of maps that were terrorist-friendly maps, and you didn't really have any SEAL-friendly maps. I mean, nothing that comes off the top of my head. There might have been one or two, but I don't know. You just don't see that anymore. Maps are so even, and they wanted to keep everything fair for everybody. I liked the fact that it was hard if I was a SEAL and I went into Sujo and I had to breach and I was getting my ass whooped, because if I won that map, it was just more satisfying knowing that I completely stomped the other team when they had an advantage over me. So yeah, I missed that. There were maps like Inawape where it was really hard because you'd go down into the tunnels there and you'd run over PMN mines or PNM mines. There'd be people camping down there and it was pitch black. So that's one of the things that I miss, and I hope that H-Hour does that. I hope they understand that that's one of the things that made SOCOM special. And it wasn't just the maps themselves, but the different modes, like demolition and stuff like that. Some of those maps were like tailor-made for that. So demolition felt really good on certain maps, and then you had like extraction and stuff like that. I remember extraction and escort. I used to love escort. Like on the mixer, if you guys remember the mixer from SOCOM 2, that was one of my favorite maps. I absolutely loved the mixer. Trying to extract those hostages, that was challenging. It was hard. And every time you went in one direction or the other, the terrorists were trying to figure, are they going to go to the bottom extraction? Are they going to go to the top? We don't know. We're going to need to figure out what they're doing. And SEALs would try to switch it up to kind of trick the terrorists, and maybe you'd send some guys off to the right and try to confuse them, be like, oh, they're going right, and then you'd sneak a couple of guys down at the bottom. And that stuff was just ingenious, man. And I hope they nail that with H-Hour. I want to see a lot of maps like that. And I mean, we had Fox Hunt. That was another one for escort. That was a lot of fun. I'm thinking Guidance. I'm not certain if Guidance was an escort map. It's been a long time. I think maybe that was Demolition. I had a lot of fun with Rat's Nest. I absolutely loved Rat's Nest in SOCOM 1. I had a lot of fun with that because it wasn't too big, and it was just a great map. I don't even know what to say about Rat's Nest. It was just a lot of fun. It was well designed, and I believe that was one of the more even maps. There wasn't really an advantage for anybody there. But I do have a little bit of a complaint with that. When it came out for SOCOM 2, they like blocked off this one area. I think you couldn't get through, if I remember right. And they made it dark. Like you couldn't choose to play during the day. I don't know what the hell that was all about. But I pretty much stopped playing Rat's Nest for that reason. And I think everybody pretty much stopped playing it then. And then, of course, we had Death Trap. And that's another favorite map of mine. And it was more of a terrorist-friendly map, because the SEALs had to get in there and extract the hostages. And I had a lot of fun with that. I remember trying to get in through the doors and, getting blown up and shit. It was challenging. It was a really challenging map. And when you came from the outside into the inside of the map, it's like your eyes had to adjust to the darkness, just kind of like real life. And I really enjoyed that. And yeah, I mean, terrorists definitely had the advantage there. But it was a lot of fun trying to get in there and to get those hostages out and extract them. And it wasn't a very big map. It was medium sized. It was medium sized to small map. It wasn't really big, but you had a lot going on with the inside of the base there. So yeah, I definitely loved that. Bitter Jungle, I love that map. If I remember correctly, I think there was a little bit of lag issues in that map because they had fog. Maybe that was Blood Lake. It's been such a long time since I played the classic SOCOM 1 maps that I don't really recall. And yeah, I think that there was problems with lag. I think one of those was actually an extraction map. But yeah, those are a couple of maps that I haven't played in, man, I don't know, 5 years or more. Probably more than that. Probably longer than that. But those were great maps. And Night Stalker. Night Stalker is also one of my favorite maps and was the very first SOCOM map I ever played. As a matter of fact, SOCOM 1 was the first game I ever played in my life online. So that map's really special. The first time I ever got online with other people and heard them talking and experienced online play, it was in Night Stalker. Now that's another map that was very even. You didn't really have any advantages. You had the bomb in that one building that everybody tried to rush for, or maybe they would hang back, but usually typically people would rush into there. And you had that one waterfall that people would hide behind. I remember getting shot from that a few times and thinking, damn it, why didn't I see that guy there? He was hiding behind that damn waterfall. Obviously Crossroads was a great map. Everybody loved Crossroads. I mean, come on. Get to the Red Room, you know what I'm saying? It was just a great map. I don't even know what to say about it. It was a well-even map, too. Everybody had to go to the middle to get the bomb. and it always caused some craziness in the middle. It was just a great map. I love that map. Desert Glory. I'm sure there's probably a few of you who are going, dude, you didn't say Desert Glory yet. What the hell's the matter with you? Now, that was one of the most famous maps. If you didn't like Desert Glory, there's something wrong with your ass. I mean, Desert Glory was awesome until SOCOM Confrontation, and it was still awesome. I still liked it, but everything blew up. You know, there were barrels everywhere. The freaking trucks were blowing up. It was just a pain in the ass. So I didn't like what they did with it in SOCOM Confrontation, but I still played the shit out of it on Confrontation for the you know, like the month I had that game before it got shut down. Rest in peace, by the way. We just we buried another part of SOCOM history. All right, so I'm trying to think. Abandoned. Abandoned was another good map. I think that was a pretty even map, if I am not mistaken. I had a lot of fun with that map and the runes. I had a lot of fun with the runes. That was probably one of my favorite maps, and it was pretty even. You had the map, or the map. You had the bomb in the middle, and it's just an awesome map. I loved it. Blizzard. Blizzard is another fond memory for me. Now, I wanted to play Blizzard on SOCOM Confrontation, but I wasn't going to pay the $15 to get the Cold Front DLC. Well, because there was only about a month left by the time I got that game. So, yeah, I kind of missed out on that, but I absolutely loved Blizzard back in the day, and I think that was pretty even as well. I think the Terrorists had a slight advantage there because they had a little bit of a higher ground. That building that they started in, I think that was probably the main advantage that they had because they could set up to snipe over there. Of course, they could be sniped themselves, but I don't know. I just felt that it was a little more terrorist friendly. Anyway, you had the bomb that was pretty much in the middle of that map, and I love snow. I've said this on the forums a few times. I've brought up some threads about it. I absolutely love snow maps. SOF has hinted on making snow maps on their Twitter, so I was really happy when I saw that the other day. And I was just thinking of the maps that I didn't like, and pretty much the only map that I didn't like was Chain Reaction in SOCOM 2. I didn't really care for that map. I don't know, it was okay. It's just one of those maps that I didn't really play that much. And the other one I didn't play that much was Shadow Falls. It took me a second to think about that one. It was okay because I was really good at seeing people at night. I don't know, for some reason. I also had my brightness up on my TV. That was kind of like a SOCOM trick, right? I know you guys did that, right? Everybody turned their brightness up on their TV so they could see better in the dark. I mean, I know I did that. Man, it's really hard not to list all these. You know, I told myself, dude, you can't list off all the SOCOM maps. You'll be here all freaking day, and nobody wants to sit through a 40-minute long video. But it's so hard, you know. I don't want to leave any of these maps out. Another thing that's kind of difficult is I can't post footage for all the maps. You know, it just doesn't exist. I can't just go in and start stealing people's Let's Plays and shit like that. That's no good. I can't do that. So it's kind of hard to put images up on the screen that are relevant. So I apologize for that. There's a few maps that people don't really mention that much, and one of those is Requiem. I believe I'm saying that right. Is it either Requiem or Requiem? I don't know. That was another map that I really liked. People didn't play that a lot, and I believe that was Demolition, where you had to go down in that little building that was down in the ground. It was like it's like a catacomb or something. I don't even know what the hell to call it, but it was a lot of fun. And I remember unlocking the Russian terrorist lady, and you had to play the single-player campaign to unlock her. Now, I've heard that people just went online and they downloaded the save file. I didn't do that. And back in those days, I didn't have a computer, believe it or not. I know that's crazy, right? I didn't have a computer. I had internet for SOCOM and a couple of other games that I played online, so I didn't have any means to do that. And you know, I got satisfaction out of unlocking her anyway. And then I had some of those moments in SOCOM 3 as well. The crazy lab coat terrorist lady. She was another one that I unlocked. And it took a long time, man. It took a long time to unlock those characters. That's another thing I want to state, is that a lot of people overlook the campaigns on SOCOM. I know that the star of SOCOM was online. I completely get that. But the map design and the level design for the offline campaigns was ingenious. So if you missed out on that, I'm really sorry for you. And as a matter of fact, what you need to do right now is, if you didn't play through those campaigns, you were too busy shooting people up online, you need to pick those games up again if you don't have them. Get yourself a PlayStation 2, and while you're waiting for H-Hour, play through the campaigns. Because I'm serious, man, you missed out on some really good level design, you missed out on some good levels. Sandstorm was another good map. I believe that was Breach. I had a lot of fun with all the Breach maps, like Sujo and Awape. I liked Breach. It was a lot of fun. I don't think I mentioned Fishhook. Fishhook was another one that was pretty popular. It was a good map, but I believe it suffered from some lag, and that might have been from the water or something like that. But yeah, that was a good map, and that was actually a really good offline mission. I know I'm going on about that, but that was a pretty good mission. You had to be stealthy and get past the tanks and all that shit and yada yada. Yeah, I know you guys don't want to hear about single player. Anyway, that was a good map. Extraction map, had a lot of fun with that one. Now the downloadable maps, I can't comment on those because I never did get a hard disk drive to play those maps. So I know you guys are probably going, "Oh man, really? Talk about missing out." I'm talking to you guys about missing out on single player stuff, and I didn't play any of those maps. Last Bastion, none of that stuff. Liberation, didn't play any of those maps. Okay, so Socom 3. Now I know there's a lot of people who aren't thrilled about Socom 3. I wasn't exactly thrilled about it either. There were problems with it. The grenades, for one, they bounced all over the damn place. That got on my nerves. And you had encumbrance. It was a pain in the ass. Obviously, it was an inferior game to Socom 1 and 2. And, I know there's Socom 3 fans out there who are pissed at me right now, but I just didn't like it as much. However, that doesn't mean that the maps weren't amazing. Those maps were ingenious. That was probably the saving grace for Socom 3. They changed the engine. I didn't care for it that much. There were things that I didn't really like about that game, but the maps were ingenious. I loved Harvester, and that was probably the only map I ever played on the larger size. I had a lot of fun with Harvester, and I used to like to snipe back in those days, so I had a lot of fun with that. It was a great sniper map, and playing it on smalls was fun, and the only thing that got on my nerves was the quick sniping. People that quick snipe got on my nerves, and I learned how to quick snipe. It really wasn't that hard, but I viewed it as like an exploit. You're not supposed to be able to jump and zoom in. I'm not going to go into a rant about that shit. I'm not going to do it. But anyway, Crucible was a lot of fun. I remember playing that. Killing Fields was awesome on smalls. Citadel was my favorite Socom 3 map. Hands down. Citadel on smalls was just freaking awesome. It kind of reminded me of Crossroads in a way. I had a lot of fun with that map. Devil's Road was one of those maps I didn't really care for. I mean, it just wasn't for me. I think that was mostly people played Convoy on that map, and I don't think I ever played Convoy once. I wasn't interested in that. Boneyard was fun on smalls. I know some people liked it on large, but I preferred it on smalls, the one with the ship. That was actually a lot of fun. It was kind of a smaller map, and if you weren't careful when you first started off, you got your ass sniped real quick. So that was a great map. Tidal Fury, I think I had some fun with Tidal Fury on smalls. And Tenora, I can't really remember. I think that was more like a sniping map, like a swampy area. Maybe that was Stormfront. It's been a while. Fault, I had a lot of fun with Fault. Shotguns only in Fault. I remember that. That was just awesome. And that was where I got to play the lab coat lady, the crazy lab coat lady. I think she was in that map, and she was also in Waterworks. And Waterworks, I know there's a lot of people that don't really care for that, but I like that map a lot. And it was one of the only other maps that I actually liked on large. And the only map where I really got down with the vehicles, because for some reason the boats were fun. I liked being on the boats. And Blackwoods. Blackwoods was pretty cool. I know there's a lot of people that didn't really care for Blackwoods, but I had some fun with it. I think one of the reasons why people don't like Blackwoods is because there was a lot of crawling around. People were down in the dirt. And, it was a really camp-heavy map. I think that was the one that had trains in it, too. So, yeah, those are pretty much all the Socom 3 maps. I know I said I wouldn't name off all the maps, but it's really hard not to. I enjoyed a lot of the Socom 3 maps, I got to be honest. Okay, so, Combined Assault. That's pretty much the last one I'm going to go through. Because Confrontation, I didn't really play a lot of that. I played mostly on, the older maps when I played that game, so I'm not going to really get into that. And it's not to say there weren't good maps for that, but I didn't play it a lot. Same thing with Socom 4. I didn't play it a lot. I know Russ Phillips worked on Socom 4, so I'm sure some of those maps were really tight. But, it just wasn't my cup of tea in terms of gameplay. So, Combined Assault Summit. Summit was a great map. I played a lot of that map, and it was probably my favorite map from Combined Assault. There were some of the maps, actually most of the maps, if I'm being honest, I didn't really care for. I don't know why. I found myself playing Socom 3 maps more often, but Summit was a lot of fun. That was one with the cabins and stuff. It was in the cabins, and it had all the snow. And I believe that's where Boomer died in the single-player mission. So, spoiler! If you didn't play single-player, sorry. You're going to want to do that. I think probably the best single-player experience in terms of SOCOM was Confrontation. Confrontation. There was no single-player. Confrontation, numbnuts. Combined Assault. You guys know what I'm trying to say here. It was just great. And another thing that I really loved about Combined Assault was the co-op. And David Sears, if you're watching this, highly unlikely you're working your ass off, I know. But somebody from SO Studios, if you could convey this to David, I want to see some co-op. I really do. I loved co-op in Combined Assault, and I know a lot of people are all about the multiplayer, but don't overlook co-op because it was a lot of fun. And to my surprise, talking to people on the forums, there were a lot of people that actually got into co-op in Combined Assault. It was the first time that we had anything like that in the Socom universe, and I think they did it really well. The AI was very intelligent in that game, and I enjoyed it immensely. Okay, so next up is Copperhead. I do believe I played Copperhead mostly in co-op. Most of these maps I played in co-op, but it was a very dark map, so that kind of got on my nerves. I think it was different on multiplayer. I think it was pretty different. I think that was the one with the sawmill, where you played the sawmill on co-op and offline. The single player experience, but it was really dark, so I didn't play a lot of that. Threshold was pretty cool. There's a lot of sniping on Threshold. I do remember that quite fondly, actually. Retaliation was a great map. I have to say, that's probably tied with Summit for me. I had a lot of fun with that, and it kind of reminded me of Sujo in a way, the way that the little huts were, and he had like a little river going through the middle. It was pretty fun, and I think I'm gonna put all this stuff up on the screen. I'm not positive, because all that stuff is like post, guys. I do all that later. I try to talk first. Boot camp was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that map. I believe that was an escort mission, or an escort map rather. I had a lot of fun with that. Anchorage was pretty fun. I think on on large maps I didn't care for that, but I think there was a small option for that, and I really liked that map. Echelon was cool, or yeah, I think I'm saying that right. Echelon. You guys know me with pronouncing shit. I'm terrible at it. I think that was the one with the stadium in the middle. So yeah, that one was actually pretty cool. I had fun with that. Aftershock was really dark. I don't think I played a lot of Aftershock. I think if I did play anything like Aftershock, it was the co-op. Siphon was pretty cool, but only because it had a snowman in it. But no, so Siphon was pretty cool. I think that was one of my favorite maps for co-op. And some of you might remember you can shoot that snowman, and there were these sausages that you could collect in co-op mode, and I believe one of them was inside of the snowman. And then you had Prowler, and I don't really remember much about Prowler. All I know is it was a snow map, and it had a cabin, and if I seen somebody playing it, I'd probably go, "Oh yeah, I remember," but I don't really recall it that much. All right, so I know I said I wouldn't go through all the maps, and I may have missed a few. I'm pretty sure I did, but man, you know, I want to be thorough. I wanted to mention all the maps, at least mention them. I couldn't go into detail about all of them, because it sucks when somebody's posting and like, "You didn't mention this in this map, you bastard, you." I'm sorry if I missed your map, and yeah, like I said, it's hard to go into detail. We'll be here all day, and this is already going on like a half an hour. I need to wrap it up, but anyway. Okay, so there's just one thing I wanted to address here real quick. There's people that keep sending me messages, and I'm seeing it on my channel a lot and on the forums. People are asking, are we going to see the classic maps on H-Hour? And the answer is no. Not in an official capacity, no. Maybe through mods, because I know the SOF did mention they wanted to put mods. I believe they did mention that. And it would be very surprising to me if they didn't have mod tools and stuff like that for creating levels on H-Hour on the PC. Now, I have heard, and I think I've mentioned this in a previous video, that PlayStation 4 will support mods. I don't know 100%, so I can't tell you guys, yes, we're going to be able to do this. But I'm fairly confident that we will be able to have mods on PS4, so you can probably look forward to seeing people recreate those maps. They won't be official maps, but they'll be able to be recreated. And if you've seen some of the maps that people have made with level editing stuff, like Counter-Strike Go, for example, those guys they've remade some of the classic Socom maps. They did a really good job. So yeah, the only way you're going to see those classic maps is through modding tools. But anyway, like I said, I'm ready to move on. You know, I want to see new maps. I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see what these guys produce. So now I want to talk about some of the H-Hour maps. Now, there's not a lot to go off of. That's why I kind of saved it for last, because I'm not going to be able to talk about it as long as I did with the Socom maps. All that's well established, and you know, this is all speculation. Now, we can take a look at that video, and I'm going to put that video up right now. Okay, so this has been dubbed the Rural Serbia map. Now, as soon as I seen this, I was thinking Vigilance, and a lot of people are thinking Harvester because they've seen that silo. And to me, it's kind of like a mix between the two. And it really does have a classic Socom feeling. Now, there's some people who had problems with this shot right here, because they're saying that, well, somebody can camp into that tower, and then you're going to be blinded by the sunlight, and it's going to be a problem. And it's kind of being nitpicky right now, in my opinion, but I can see what they mean. It would be a little difficult to see if someone was camping up in there. They could probably shoot you. And people are clever, you know. They're intelligent. They're smart. They know. Well, not everybody, but some people are intelligent, and they know that they can use that to their advantage, and you won't be able to see them at certain angles. So that might be something that has to be worked out. You know, I like the fact that you've got a lot of buildings there that you can go in and out of. They're just going to cause a lot of close quarters combat and stuff like that. So yeah, so far it's looking really good. And we don't know if we've seen the entire map. I'm sure we haven't seen the entire map. They probably just ran through a little area. They want to show us too much. And you know, while that lighting right there might be an issue, I think it's just there to kind of showcase how good the lighting looks already. You know, look at the shadows on the wall when that guy's running through there. I like all the buildings. I like the fact that there's a lot of buildings where there's going to be a lot of small firefights breaking out, some close quarters stuff going on. Now there is a part here that reminds me of Desert Glory. That broken building right there that's kind of busted up, that reminds me of the middle building from Desert Glory. And right here it looks like he's actually standing inside that busted up building. That could be a completely different building, but it does look like that. And you know, like I said, I really like a lot of buildings. It adds personality and places for people to hide out. Like that busted up building right there is another example where people can just kind of hide behind the wall and pop up and shoot you. Now in this footage, this was actually shown during the Kickstarter. This was some of the stuff that they were actually referencing for the Serbian level. And you can already see some of this in the game, like that chapel right there. You can just barely make out the top of that chapel, or steeple, whatever you want to call it, church. You can just barely make out the top of that, one of the shots in the pre-alpha footage. So yeah, I mean, they're doing their research, and it looks great. And they've only been doing this for a few months. I mean, I think it was like what, 6 months on a $250,000 budget. This is looking really good, and you can tell they're utilizing everything. They're getting all these shots and they're implementing them into the game. There's just a certain level of authenticity that you get from doing that kind of research and putting that amount of effort into the game. So I mean, you just look at this comparatively and you see the rough sketches, and then you see it in practice in this early work in progress video, this pre-alpha video, and it just looks really nice. And I can't wait to see what they do with other maps. I can't wait to see that map that they hinted at. They said they had something like Blizzard. They mentioned a blizzard, and it was going to help making a map. They kind of teased a little bit. And you can see the chapel there again on the left-hand side where they've implemented that into the game. So, yeah, I just can't wait to see more from these guys. I can only imagine these guys must be exhausted, because it seems just like yesterday they were showing us this block concept stuff. And already we've got a very nice-looking pre-alpha footage video out there. It's really awesome to experience this. You know, I've never been a part of anything like this before. I've never seen all this stuff. Developers don't show you stuff like this. We're living in a different age, guys. Back in the day, developers didn't show you this kind of shit. They did everything they could to keep this away from the public. And now with Kickstarter and indie games and stuff like that, they're showing you more and more. So yeah, guys, that's about it. That's all I really wanted to say. Actually, I wanted to say a lot more, but I'm pretty certain nobody wants to sit here for an hour or 2 hours while I reminisce about Socom maps and talk about H-Hour. Now, before I go, I do want to put a little something at the end of the video I think you guys might find very interesting. If you're not following them on Twitter, and by them I mean David Sears and SOF Studios, I suggest you do that. So anyway, I thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.